Assalamualaikum to all judges and hello everyone, I am Nasuha. Ladies and gentlemen, I delighted to persuade to the people about e-hailing or apps-based taxi service is safer than traditional taxi service. According to the organizational method Monroe motivated sequence, the first is attentions. The emergence of the transportation network companies, TNC, has revolutionized public transportation by offering 24/7 mobility. Apps-based taxi service have coexisted with normal taxi businesses despite creating substantial obstacles. For example, the cost of a medallion in New York City traditional taxi service program has dropped by 90% when apps-based taxi system arrived. The lack of constraint in this new taxi cab sector has created a competitive business where a few firms dominate both industry. They both provide door-to-door mobility solutions. Notice that we should only focus on common or economical taxi service rather than any able to share high cost or unique service. But they use the different hailing methodologies and the dominant companies or taxis authority erect technical or financial barriers to new entrants. We should think a prior traditional taxi service dominated car market where all taxi service apply for authorization from a central taxis power and nearly identical existing attributes and sales price schemes, and where taxis official control naval capacity by deciding the number of license to sell. The emerging economic structure differs greatly. Two key changes in the current taxi industry require specific mentions. 1. Cover an industry dominated by traditional taxi service to one that includes both. The traditional taxi service allows the government to directly manage the quantity of ships and drivers. The apps-based taxi service, on the other hand, acts as a matchmaker between customers and drivers. 2. More adaptability and less competitions. Apps-based taxi service allows for flexible duty hours and access restrictions. A single apps-based taxi service driver might be deployed anywhere and at any time inside the city where the car is registered. Despite traditional taxi service, there are no constraints on a shift length or naval capacity. Apps taxi service system also adjusts ticket figures depending on the pricing and quantity conditions rather than a fixed fare price. Advance in data analytics and the availability of a taxi GPS trace have aided in the study of cab economies, ride-sharing, adaptive control, service efficiency, and system modeling are all areas of a traditional taxi service study. The majority of these studies focus on a single cab firm rather than modeling the full transportation system that includes both apps-based taxi service and traditional taxi service. Despite the lack of research in the topic, this study greatly improved key methodology for analyzing system-wide quality indicators in the current markets. Need to these topics are a unilateral traveler pairing and a motor mobility between places. Properly describe traditional taxi service dominated market behavior. The waiting, searching time and exploitation of passenger vehicle matches are critical to applications performance. Due of the spatial temporal mismatch between a drop-off and a pickup, taxi drivers are always looking for clients. However, the centralized platform with real-time administration poses issues. The first addition is customer competition between apps-based taxi service and traditional taxi service. The second change is apps-based taxi service operators' flexibility. The apps-based taxi service platform also regularly checks producer and consumer to maintain a good balance. Potential flows into the competing transportation system include consumers and autos. Aircraft are handled by both taxi fleets and apps-based taxi service driving partnerships. Now we go to satisfactions to this topic. The market mechanism of free entry allows apps-based taxi service cars to join and depart the network regularly. So that's an open standard for outside admissions and exits. Notably, the CAP system's key functions are passenger vehicle matching and inhibit vehicle mobility over the metropolitan road network. To this end, evaluations should include both the taxi sector and the metropolitan road system. Both networks are geographically unequal, with midtown having a greater travel demand but lower ground vehicle speeds. First, we divide a network like a city into a system. The empty vehicles may join consumers inside every subsystem known as the CAP storage system, and then travel within and between highway networks, a networks of a subsystem GNA, where N is the total of all divide compartments or geographical unit, and that they jointly operate one CAP or one highway subsystem, as well as a collection of stimulating the growth signaling subsystem leakage are created. In addition, we categorize into 4 root elements measuring information about service type, app-based taxi service or traditional taxi service, and vehicle conditions occupied or empty. Hence, visualization reminds us to know. Generally, one geographic unit receives 2 external automobile and person entries. External vehicle entries might come from inside the region or from a neighboring spot, full or empty. Here are the comprehensive design of this taxi subsystem, encompassing not just 2 more trips and a more complex route with the collections behavior. On the other hand, over-road subsystem just reflects automobile and taxi cab motions as a mandate by the corresponding routing probability. We also create a fictitious note and to represent the game finish. In conclusion, every taxi subsystem simply handles the pairing processes among vacant vehicles as well as passengers, after which match pairings of commuters as well as vehicles are transmitted to the highway subsystem. Every road component transports both filled and unoccupied vehicles between taxi subsystems. Thank you for watching my video.